I remember the sound of silence after his death. It came like a storm that never ended, and I could not breathe inside it. My husband was gone, and so was the laughter that once lived in these walls. The world told me to grieve quietly, to let time heal what loss had burned into my bones. But time does not heal. It only teaches you how to live with a hollow heart. So I ran, I left the city, and the whispers that followed me, and I went searching for a place where grief could not find me. But grief is a patient ghost. It travels with you in every breath you take. I found the land in California where the earth smelled of dust and promise, and I began to build. I told the men to start at sunrise and never stop to keep building as if tomorrow might not come. I did not know what I wanted. I only knew I had to keep moving. My hands could not stop, so neither could theirs. They said I was haunted. They said I built rooms for spirits. They said I was cursed. Maybe I was. Maybe the curse was love that had nowhere left to go. Every hallway I made was a memory, every staircase a prayer for the ones I lost. I could hear him sometimes, my William, in the creak of the wood or the sigh of the wind through the glass. I spoke to him softly when no one watched. I asked him if he forgave me for still breathing. When he could not, I asked him if he remembered the way I laughed before the rifles, before the money, before the blood that made us rich and ruined us too. They called it the Winchester fortune. But it was made from death. Every bullet, a story. Every trigger, a life taken. I wondered if the dead could see the house growing and know that I was sorry, that I built for them too. The workers thought I was mad. Maybe I was, but madness felt safer than sorrow. I built stairs that led to nowhere, doors that opened to walls, windows that looked upon other windows. It made no sense to anyone but me, because grief never follows a straight line. The house was my penance and my confession. It was the echo of my heartbeat. When the world went quiet, I could not sleep, so I walked through the rooms at night with a candle in my hand. Shadows followed me like memories that would not die. I felt them behind me sometimes, not cruel, not angry, just waiting, watching. I spoke to them like old friends, because in a way they told me their stories in whispers. I could barely hear a soldier, a mother, a child, all taken by the thing that bore my name. They asked me why I built, and I told them I did not know that maybe I was trying to give them a home since mine was gone. They never answered, but the air grew warmer, and I took it as forgiveness. The world outside called my home a labyrinth of sorrow, but to me, it was a heartbeat made of wood. I could feel life inside its walls, the rhythm of the hammer, the echo of footsteps, the gentle cry of wind. It was alive. I built not for ghosts, but for the silence between us, because silence is the loudest sound when love has nowhere left to go. I remember the day I looked into the mirror and did not recognize the woman staring back. Her hair silver, like the moon, her eyes hollowed but soft. I asked her who she was, and she said, "I am the house. I am every nail and every whisper. I am the widow who built her grief into something that would not die." I smiled at her because I finally understood that the house was never about ghosts. It was about love that refused to fade. I remember one night when the ground trembled and the earth roared like a beast. The walls shook, the glass shattered, and I thought perhaps it was time, perhaps the house would fall, and I with it. But when the morning came, it still stood broken, yet unbowed like me. The men wanted to rebuild what the quake had taken, but I told them to leave it as it was. Scars are proof that we survived, and I wanted the house to remember, too. I would walk through those damaged halls, touching the cracks like they were veins of memory. I would whisper, "Thank you for staying, thank you for standing," when I could not. Sometimes I would stop in the room with the sunlight, the one that never seemed to dim. No matter how thick the fog, I would sit there for hours, with my hands on my lap, feeling the warmth of something unseen. I liked to think it was him, that he still lingered somewhere between the beams and the air, and I would tell him that I was sorry that I loved him, that I hoped he found peace even if I never could. The house grew and grew 7 stories of sorrow and love. Each room a thought I never spoke aloud. The men built day and night, and I watched until my eyes grew heavy and my heart softer. I would sometimes hear laughter faint and far away, as if the past was playing hide and seek in the walls, and I would smile because it made the silence less cruel. People came to see the house after I was gone. They walked through the corridors and whispered her name like it was a prayer. They said I built a maze to trap ghosts, but they never saw the truth. The ghosts were never trapped. They were held. They were remembered, every nail, every board, every mistake, every room that led to nowhere was a love letter to what I lost and to what I could never have again. When you walk those halls now, if you listen closely, you might hear my footsteps still gentle, slow, a soft hum under the air. Not because I am trapped, but because I never left. I am in the dust that falls from the rafters, in the light that bends through the glass. I am in the walls that breathe when no one watches. I am not haunting. I am remembering. The house was my prayer, my apology, and my peace. I built it so that the ones who were gone would have a place to rest, and so would I. The world will tell you I was afraid of spirits, but the truth is, I built the house because I was afraid of silence. I filled it with sound, so I would not have to hear the echo of my own heart breaking. I wanted to build a place where love could live even after death could not touch it. Here in these walls, I am safe here. The ghosts are kind here. The past is not cruel. I built this house for them, for him. For every soul that was ever taken by the weight of what we made, and maybe for you too, so that when you walk through its halls, you will know that grief is not a curse. It is a language, and I was just learning how to speak it. The house stands because love never truly dies. It only changes its shape, sometimes into a memory, sometimes into a home, sometimes into a story whispered by a widow who built a world out of her sorrow and found in the darkness, not madness, but meaning. And maybe if you listen long enough to the silence that lives between the walls, you will hear me say what I never could before, that even in loss there is love, even in sorrow there is beauty, even in ghosts there is grace, and that this house was never haunted. It was only human.